This is the Awful Announcing Podcast. Here's your host, Brandon Contes.
Alrighty, welcome to episode 62 of the Awful Announcing Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Contes, and this week we are joined by senior NFL insider for The Athletic, Dianna Russini. Dianna, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today, and welcome to the podcast club. You launched Scoop City with Chase Daniel last month. How is that going? How is being a podcast host?
Well, I hear this is episode 62 for you, and I want to take a nap thinking about doing 62 episodes. So congratulations to you for going this long and still being productive and getting interviews and moving this train along, because it's a lot of work. And, you know, podcasting isn't just giving opinions and sharing intel. It's a lot of work, and I have a really great team around me at The Athletic. They give us producers and people to help us with social media and editors, and there's so many hands involved and a lot of people helping us out. So that's the long answer. The short answer is it's been awesome.
Well, so I think the biggest difference that I would assume between my podcast and yours is like people know Awful Announcing, but they don't really know me. I don't have name recognition. People know who you are. So like there's a certain level of expectation that comes with that, with everything that you do. And I would imagine there's some added level of pressure that goes along with that. So basically, like, don't feel bad about telling me that it's a lot harder to host your podcast than it is mine.
I don't know about all of that. I think that just listeners and viewers in general have an expectation now. People are so busy and nobody has time to listen to things and watch 10-second video clips. I find myself doing that, where I'm even interested in the topic and I'm too lazy, or my attention's somewhere else, to just press play and watch the quick video clip. So when we put the project together, we had a lot of conversations about, okay, how can we make sure this show is a good hang and entertaining, yet after people listen, they go, all right, I learned something. I received new information, and maybe I laughed a little. So we've been trying to find the best formula, and it's really still a work in progress, but so far I'm really proud of what we've done.
What is the turnaround time like when you record a podcast versus release it?
A few hours, 12 hours, if
that.
It is,
it's very quick.
So it's a really quick turn. So our team behind the scenes, they scramble after we put it out. And then, you know, there's always news happening. So, you know, the Hassan Riddick story happened with the New York Jets after I recorded the information I had at that moment. And then I wound up getting more later at night, you know, and then you have to make this decision. All right, is it worth re-recording? Should we put some new intel in there? And most of the time our team has the same belief, which is if an insider is going to be hosting the show, they should have the best and most current information. So, you know, our executive producer, though, lives on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. Chase Daniel is on the West Coast. So we're all in different time zones. And I mean, our group chat, you would definitely remove yourself from it, because I want to remove myself from it at this point, because the thing is going at all hours of the day and it starts early. So I always just think about what it's like for Chase to start his morning. He wakes up, looks at his phone like every other human being, and sees the Scoop City group chat is already 40 to 60 messages deep on not just NFL topics, but just stuff going on in our lives, because we all have become friends and we like each other and we share stuff. So put it this way, I will never leave the East Coast, because I need to be ahead. I can't be behind.
How is working with Chase? We had him on this podcast about a year ago, and I don't know whether he's officially retired from the NFL yet, but he definitely has a bright future in the media industry.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's been such a delight to work with. He's such a team player. He works at this. He wants to be great. He understands the quarterback position so well. We had Raiders GM Tom Telesco, who was the GM with the Chargers when Chase was there. And he was explaining to me how detail oriented and what a good note taker Chase has been, or Chase was as a player. And that's really what separated him from a lot of the other guys in a locker room, is just his ability to study and focus. And I've seen that with Chase in this work. So I also just enjoy talking to him. And I know that probably sounds so basic, but because I have to talk to so many people throughout the day, every single day, because of my job, I've become pickier with who I like to talk to. And when I see him calling my phone or FaceTiming me, I quickly answer, because I just enjoy him. And he makes me laugh, and he makes me better at my job. And he's always thinking about stories in the league that I'm not always focused on that interest him. And so I just think his foundation as a human being is curiosity, which is the greatest gift in a co-host, especially when I'm teamed up with someone who wants information and wants to know everything. And then I can go out and try to find that for him.
Yeah. Did you know Chase? How did you get partnered up with him for the podcast?
So I'd covered the Bears for a few games the year he was in Chicago, and we'd had some conversations, but just throughout the league and having friends that were friends with Chase, that's really the only way we knew of each other. But I wouldn't consider us to be like tight. I wasn't ever like texting with him. He was not a source. He's still not a source. But I had seen him on social media doing some clips, and I liked him. And then he invited me on his show just randomly. And it was the first time I was on a show with a former player who wanted to know what I thought. And I know that probably sounds strange, because I'm a guest on the show. Of course he's going to want to know. He genuinely respected my thoughts and opinion. And I remember after doing the interview, I reached back out to him and said, thank you so much for having me on the show, but you have a really incredible gift of welcoming people, but showing a lot of respect, even though I never played the game. He respects that I've done this job for so long, and you can't teach that. That's just who you are. And that's also been a really cool part of the show, is there's no prove it with Chase. There's no, oh, well, you don't know, you've never done it. In fact, I find Chase goes overboard at times because he knows I'm a former athlete. So he talks to me like a dude. And I'm always like, okay, remember, I didn't play. So back it up, So I'd asked our bosses of they asked me for a few names of people that I wanted to work with, and Chase was at the top of the list, and we did one audition, and everyone's like, yeah, this is it. It was just one of those situations where there's no questions, no one's worried. There's no, well, how is he going to be in this year? Everyone's like, okay, this works. These two are meant to be together. And I feel it every show.
Yeah. Even when he did this podcast, I was impressed with his, like he came on and he had such an interest in the media industry, and like not just talking about football, but even talking about like changes that happened at networks and different shows that were popping up. Like he took an interest in it, and he knew a lot about it. And I thought that was really impressive when he was on this podcast.
Yeah.
It was really a lot
It's
of fun to talk to him.
it's the curiosity, right? Because now
Yeah.
his passion is in the media. So he wants to know everything. And it's funny because half the time we were talking, it's about that kind of stuff. And I'm like, all right, let's talk about the pod, because he's just a collector of information at all times. So it's hence the reason why it's called Scoop City, because he's also always looking for scoops and giving scoops. He gives some scoops too sometimes.
So why did you launch the podcast? Did you see a void? Is it more of like a creative outlet, or is it just part of the job with The Athletic? Like why the new venture?
Of anything I've ever done in my career, hosting, reporting, radio, this is the one area that anyone I came across at ESPN would say, how do you not have a podcast? Or I would join people's podcasts, Chris Long, Ryan Russillo, part of my take guys. They'd all say the same thing to me afterwards of, why don't you have a show? You like to talk, you talk a lot. And I'm not afraid to be myself. So I think I think a lot of people thought that this would be a good outlet for me to just show who I was outside of just being a reporter on Sunday NFL Countdown or on Sports Center, because I always had more to give and more to share. There just was really no space for me to do it. And the Le Batard show was probably the first group to identify it, see it, and bring it out in me. And after doing their shows, I thought, oh wait, this could work in the right situation, because to me, the information and credibility of what I do is my bread and butter, and it's what has given me a career, and I hope will continue to give me one. So I never want to shy away from being a reporter that collects info, but I'm still a human being. So a podcast is a perfect form for me to just be me, but also provide info.
Were you interested in hosting a podcast at ESPN? Like, did you approach them, or did they approach you about doing one?
No one ever talked to me about a podcast. They had conversations with me about doing a radio show with Mike Greenberg. That was something I was really interested in. Mike Greenberg is the absolute best at what he does. And the idea of hosting a show and being asked to host a show by Mike and the people at ESPN was it. I almost was intimidated by it at first, thinking I'm going to sit next to Mike Greenberg, who has not technically sat next to a partner on the radio side since Mike Golick, since Mike and Mike, and they're going to include me in this. So while it wasn't a podcast, it was a form of a show with Mike Greenberg that we discussed. But I wound up leaving ESPN, so we were never able to do it. And I'm still really good friends with Mike Greenberg, and I think we both miss each other a lot.
So that would have been with his current midday radio show?
Yeah, there were some conversations that we were having about me being a co-host on that show, whether that meant 5 days a week, because my schedule at ESPN was wild because I'm traveling a lot to do the job. My main job was Sunday NFL Countdown. Like, that is what I was there to do, is that pregame, postgame reporting. And then during the week, obviously SportsCenter wants you to pop on their shows, and I enjoyed Get Up. Of everything I did, that was my favorite show to do. So Greeny was great about making sure I was always in the mix. And plus, in terms of being in studio, it's in New York. I live in New Jersey. It takes me 35 minutes to get there. It was perfect.
Yep.
And Mike always brought out the best of me in terms of appreciating information, but allowing me to be me. That was the best version, I think, of what I was able to bring to a show. So it made sense to put us together because we worked so well together.
Was that something that they were pitching if you did stay at ESPN?
Yeah, that was part of my new deal that they were offering, was to do a show with Mike Greenberg. But I wound up turning that down because the Athletics offer, in terms of what they were going to allow me to do, just at the time, to me, was better. And now that I've been here a full year and have truly understood what it is that the Athletic wanted and what I've been able to do here, it was 100% the right decision.
So when you left ESPN, did you leave more because you wanted to leave ESPN, or did you leave more because the Athletics offer was something unique and exciting?
It was more about what the Athletic had to offer. I love ESPN. I still love ESPN. I talk to everyone there all the time. It's almost like I'm still there. I've let go of the obsession with being on television every day and filled it with being better at my job now. I have more time to work on stories. I have more of a collaborative effort with the beat reporters at The Athletic. I'm in touch with my team at The Athletic in order to get better at breaking stories and filling in the holes on situations that are happening around the league. So it wasn't an easy decision because I wasn't unhappy. And you very rarely see people leave ESPN because they're happy or, most are unhappy or they're told to leave. That was not it. They wanted me to stay. I wanted to stay. I just knew that the jobs that I was reaching for, that I would eventually want to get to, were not in the cards for me there. They did not see me as someone that would be on Monday Night Football, that would host a Monday night pregame show, that would be on the sidelines, that would be part of the bigger broadcast shows. And at the time, it was Norby Williamson making the decisions, and he was really straight with me about it. He's like, I just don't see you being in those roles. So they were always upfront with me, which is why I respect that. I respect how they handled it because they told me. It wasn't like they led me to believe something was going to happen and then they didn't, and then I'm working at a place unhappy. So the Athletic calls me and they said, what do you want to do? We'll give it to you in terms of reporting, writing, podcast, video. And oh, yeah, if you want to do TV, if this is something you still feel a need to be part of because it's been in your life for 20 years, we'll give you all your TV rights. So work for us and go do all the TV you want. So that's really how my career has shaped up now, where I'm the senior NFL insider. I'm writing, I'm doing a newsletter, have this podcast, and I get to do TV when I want to do it.
Was it nice to have consistency with ESPN's catalog of shows to go on, or do you prefer the freedom to kind of go around and do what you want, where you want, whether that's a podcast or something on FS1 or something with Coward or anything like that?
The producer of Sunday NFL Countdown, his name's Chad Minatillo. He's one of the most talented producers I've ever worked with. Will still text me to this day. You have the inability to be still. Being still and just doing the work is hard for me. I like to be all over the place. So I enjoyed the car wash of ESPN, going on all the different shows, and I got along with all the anchors. I loved being around everyone, the energy of a show. I miss that. I miss people. But in terms of now being able to go on Russillo's podcast and be on Cowherd and do Keyshawn's podcast and do anything I really want to do at this point, I do enjoy that. It's hard with a schedule. It's hard making a schedule and fitting things in when you don't know exactly what your week is going to look like. But the fact that there's been so many outlets that have reached out to continue to want that information and be on these shows has been great, because it is different, and it's made me better at this job because I've tried different shows and working with different hosts, and they all have different styles. So it's been fun to dip my toe in the waters of other places.
When you got to ESPN, could you have envisioned at that time that you would eventually walk away from there on your own?
Never. Never, never, never. I thought I was going to die an old lady at ESPN. It's my email for everything. I'm still going through the process of changing my Dianna.Russini at ESPN.com on all my important records, because it was so good. And I was challenged there, and I was getting better every season. And the people around me were pushing me all the time, and they had so much confidence in what I could do. And I enjoyed everyone. And as competitive as this business could be, I loved working with Schefter, and Jeff Darlington became one of my best friends through ESPN. And so being married and having 2 young kids and buying a new home, switching jobs was very difficult. That was the hardest decision of my life, because I had so much on the personal side happening, and things were good at ESPN. So to go, all right, hey guys, I'm going to change this all up. We're going to sign up for something that we have no idea what it looks like. We don't really have a map. There's no blueprint of this role. So we're going to go out and create it and try to make this work. And so now that I'm a year in and we're still figuring it out, it was such a cool year, because I learned all people want is information. The Athletic hired me to be a reporter, and they hired me to be me. And so I signed up for a job to just go be me. And it's exhilarating to know that there's a place that is willing to take that bet and make that bet on me and take that chance and believe in it. They support what I'm doing. And that's really been energizing for me.
How was working with Adam Schefter? What was your working relationship like?
Oh, I love Adam. I love Adam because we didn't get close until the last few years. So I was at ESPN a total of 8 years. I'd say the first 4 years, I was slightly frightened by him, a little intimidated, and he's not frightening at all, and he's not intimidating at all. He's so open. But I was just in my head about it because I had to earn in my head. I thought I had to earn an Adam Schefter relationship. So I was always trying to share with him all the stuff I knew and text him. And he was great. Anything I needed would be like, great job. And he really helped build my confidence that I could do this. And eventually I was sitting with him one day and I overheard him on the phone with an agent. And I remember going, wait, that's how you talk to an agent? He was like this. Hey, how are you? Great. Thank you. Okay, good to know. Okay, take care. Talk soon. I'm like, Adam, that was the most mechanical, robotic conversation I've ever had. I want you to hear me talk to people. And our styles are so different. And Adam is at a point in his career, he doesn't need to make these investments into the relationships. And he can be robotic because he can just get the information. People are calling him. But I remember saying to him, gosh, if people knew how funny and kind and just great you are to be around, you would probably get triple the amount of stories you're already getting. So that really broke the ice between us in terms of our relationship. And ever since then, we're really good friends, and he's supportive, and we compete, but he's at such a different level and at such a different point in his life now. So it's great when he'll see I break a story first. He'll be the first to give me credit. I always appreciate that. And then I have Woj in my life, who is, and most people would not know that because he's not in football.
Right.
But he is my true journalism mentor. He will be the first one to text me or call me and say, don't word it this way. This is how there's a better way you can put that. Here's an idea for you. And Woj was the first person at ESPN to reach out to me after I joined The Athletic. And he met me for lunch. He said, let's meet for lunch. We live near each other. Because he knew that I signed up for something that I wanted to do, but I was scared. And he just sat with me and said, here's how I think you should do this. Here's my advice on how you should be an insider at The Athletic. And he's the one who really gave me an idea of how I should carry myself and report and share news. And I'm really grateful to have someone like that with all that experience who genuinely cares about me. So I'm lucky that I've had these two mammoths, these beasts in the industry, want to help lift me up.
Yeah, which is interesting because I think of you as a little bit more of an entertainer than Woj is. Woj is strictly he goes on all the shows, but it's like this is the news,
really funny. And that's another thing about Woj. Like, people don't know him. He's wonderful and he's snarky and he has a way about him that that is I wish he could share it more, but that's not his style. And I love that. I like that he doesn't try to be something else. He's just here to make it about the story, and it's never about Adrian. It's never about him. So I have those two guys, and then Mike Silver and Jeff Darlington, I'd say, are my two other they're in my corner all the time. It's just always constantly reaching out to show support, asking how they can help. So I'm people think that you get to this point in your life, in your career, because you're just good at what you do. I am here to say, I am here because I have the greatest people in my corner. I have the biggest safety nets, just waiting for me to fall left and right. And really, they are the people who have helped prop me up over the years to really be at the point in my career where I can say, I love what I do, and I think I'm good at what I do.
Did you feel like you were in Adam's shadow at all while you were at ESPN? Were you chasing what he is and was while you were there?
I get asked that question a lot. I never felt I was in Adam's shadow. I remember seeing a story after I left for The Athletic that I wanted to get out of the shadow of Schefter. Not at all. Adam creates, first of all, he can't create a shadow. He's too short. But he doesn't work like that. Adam is the first one to say, you have information. Awesome. Let's go with it. Or I know that too, but you report it. So that it was never about that. There are times when I'll go for a little walks with my sons at night in the stroller, and I will think about what it would look like with Adam and I together now that I've had a year of doing this full time. So sometimes I do drift a little bit thinking about what that would be like, knowing that I could bring a lot more to the table now than I did even a year ago. So no, the thought of he is not a shadow caster. If anything, he's a star shiner. And that's how he operates. Adam's not about the ego anymore, or I don't think he ever was, but he's definitely not like that anymore.
In your career, where does breaking news rank to you?
Like kids, husband, breaking news, like in life?
No, career, not life. Like breaking news versus being more of a well-rounded journalist or entertainer. Like the fact that you do go on shows and doing podcasts and things like that, and you like to be on TV versus just like, no, I need to get this scoop so I could break this story.
I like it all. The rush of a transaction is always going to be one of the best feelings in the world as a reporter. And I like sticking my neck out there. I had somebody in this business say to me once, who cares what all these people are saying about this and that? I give credit to people who've got the courage to go get information and report it. Because there's so many people in this business that have information and they just don't want to take that next leap. They don't want to take that next step to go, all right, I have info, but I'm going to put it out there, because it comes with a lot of responsibility, but it comes with a lot of just kickback and criticism. So I enjoy breaking news, but the athletic experience so far has helped me recognize that I like to tell the story of why things are happening and dig a little deeper than just the transaction. And I've also recognized and realized in this moment, it is harder than transactional breaking to find out why decisions are being made and how it all came together, or why a certain organization was dysfunctional, or why a certain team fired a coach. It is really hard to get people to talk past just the simple, we're signing this guy, because everyone has different interpretations of how things happen. Yeah. And it's my job to get a bunch of different versions of it to try to get to the truth. And I have really liked that part of this job at The Athletic.
Do you have a lot of the same sources as other insiders? Or are you competing for sources? Like if you go to somebody, is it like, nope, sorry, I already gave this to Adam. You got to go find somebody else.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. I have a few sources who will be very open with me and say, I like your work. I appreciate working with you, but I've known Adam for 30 years.
Yeah.
I don't know you as well, but let's work on it. So I have a few of those. And then I also have the other side of it where they don't want to deal with Adam and Ian anymore. They're worn out, and a fresh voice and a fresh new perspective and a new relationship seems to be something that I've been able to take advantage of now. There are so many people in this league who want to talk, and there's so many people in this league who want to talk and build a trusting relationship with reporters. And I've spent the last year really trying to step outside my own comfort zone, because we all have sort of a foundation of people we talk to all the time. And I put so much effort into the combine and the draft and owners meetings, other events, to meet more people outside of, I'll call them my safe space, and really trying to get better with making sure every team is covered from ownership down all the way to the smallest people on the staff, to just keep growing the Rolodex.
How demanding is being an insider? Is it something that you can, like, do you see yourself getting burnt out or worn out from the job in the next, I don't know, is it 10 years, 15 years?
I think it comes in waves. And it's also a lot of the responsibility that you have as an insider. It comes with pressure and obviously speed. And in my personal life, I have 2 under 3 right now. So there are just days where it's hard to do both. I was pushing my son on the swing last night while the other one's going down the slide, and I'm on the phone with an executive who's giving me really good information, and I'm I'm always multitasking. I'm very rarely just sitting talking on the phone. There's just always things happening. So I don't see myself getting burned out because I love it so much, but it's not an easy job. It
Yeah.
is really taxing, and you have to have a really good support system in your home to understand it. And
Yeah.
I married someone who understands the business of football. So he steps up all the time for us to just make sure that if I do get a phone call late at night, which it happens a lot, especially lately, where especially dealing with people that are on the West Coast. To them, it's early in, early evening. It's late here, but I got to take the call. And my husband Kevin will cover that. So you really have to make sure you have that support team, but also the desire to keep doing it. And every time I think, oh, maybe I'll just go back to just being a general assignment reporter and just cover. I'm not built like that anymore. I can't just go on TV and say basic things. I can't do it. I've tried. I need to know more. And I think there's also an expectation when I'm on television now and when I'm on shows that I'm going to give you more insight. So it's a cool job, but it definitely comes with a lot.
Yeah. I have a 2-year-old and an 11-month-old, so
Oh my God.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine a job that's more taxing than the one that I have.
Yeah.
I feel
So
like
we're in this thing together. So
I'm
you
tapped
get
for
it.
time.
You get it.
Um,
And people do tell me, especially in the league, when I share, this is what I'm doing right now with these boys, that it gets better. Like, so I think if you and I can just get to where they're 5,
right.
we're gonna be good.
Once they're in school and stuff like that, I think that'll be helpful.
Yeah.
But right now they require so much attention.
Oh, they're so needy. Especially, yeah. They're both in diapers. I mean, which
Yeah.
that's another issue. I got to get them potty trained. But
Yeah.
yeah.
What are the challenges or have there been challenges being a woman in a male dominated industry?
Absolutely. Absolutely. People think because there's women on television everywhere and there's women reporters and women covering football and it feels like there's a lot more of them.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's better. It just means that some people made decisions of let's diversify. I still run into challenges as a woman doing this, whether it's dealing with executives in the television world who may not be as open to women being in an insider role, to people in the league adjusting to a female looking for scoops and digging a little bit deeper. Now, I will say since I started covering the NFL, I am not one of these female reporters that has an endless amount of stories of players or coaches or owners treating me differently because of my gender. If anything, the safest place I feel as a woman is in football. Players are incredible about me doing this job. It's never even discussed that I'm a woman doing this job. And that's how I know they don't care. And there have been a couple, we'll call them old school type owners and general managers, coaches, agents, even that just are adjusting to this still.
Yeah.
But I don't really run into it anymore, especially because I'm established now. But I do hear from a lot of younger women as they're trying to get better at their job, asking for advice of how to be taken more seriously. And I always just say the same thing. Just be cognizant of your social media. Make sure you're dressing for the job. Make sure you're always being a professional because it's tempting to go the other way. But I can tell you, because I've been doing this for so long, the second you start going the other way, which is outside of the box of journalism and credibility, it is very hard to come back into this box. And you need to make sure the decisions that you're making are in line with what you want to do and who you want to be, because it's going to be that much harder to be a reporter, to be on the big network shows if you're putting yourself out there on social media a little too far.
Has it been harder to earn respect from employers and peers or from teams and agents?
Oh, football's easy. The NFL I've never had an issue in the NFL in terms of being treated well and being treated with respect and credibility. I would say I've had a harder time within the walls of the media with people that cover football,
Yeah.
with executives that make decisions on my gender more than the NFL by far. And what's funny is whenever I talk to coaches and people around the league about how difficult it can be to navigate the media as a woman, they always laugh because they see the other side of it. They are the ones talking to men in football and they're not impressed. So as much as that old thought of, well, you never played the game. You never played the game, so how would you know? That is so out the window. And the NFL has moved past that idea. And thankfully, the women that have done it well before me are the reason why we're here, right? You have the Andrea Kramers, the Michelle Tafoyas, the Melissa Starks, the Susie Colbers. Oh my goodness, Susie is the reason why coaches, GMs, players respect women doing it right now who want to do it the right way, because everyone knows Susie is the most prepared human being on this planet when it came to covering football. Obviously, Lisa Salters is another example. So, and I know I'm leaving out so many, but these are the women that I've always strived to emulate and be like. And I'm hoping to continue to do that for the younger women now who want to be insiders.
Would you consider any of those women, have they been mentors to you?
Yeah, through how they manage themselves and how they carry themselves. I think there's different versions of mentors.
Yeah.
To me, they just led by example, and they were always so welcoming and kind and supportive when I would see them. But in terms of having like these close relationships with them, I don't have that with any of the women before me, but there's so much respect there. And
Sure.
That's all I need.
You grew up a Jets fan, correct?
I did. No one knows that usually. Most people are like, wait, you hate the Jets. That's not true.
Are you still a Jets fan, or are you able to root for a team and be an NFL fan once you kind of get that look behind the curtain?
Yeah, my fan days are over, unfortunately. I live with an Eagles fan. I'm married to one, to a diehard Eagles fan. His family is season ticket holder. So I want my boys to grow up football fans. So I embrace the Philly culture of the Eagles because of my boys, and
Yeah.
they get excited, and they wear their little jerseys and they sing the Eagles song all day long. I can't stand that song. But for me, I don't look at the league in that way anymore.
Yeah.
I'm covering it. So I do miss it though. I miss being in the stands. I went to an Eagles game with my husband when we were dating, and it was the best date. I mean, I guess it was because I married him, because it just was a good reminder how much fun it is. I think sometimes I unfortunately take it too seriously. And that was like that was a really good moment in my life to remind myself it's sports and this is fun and this is why I got into it.
How would you describe your relationship with Jets fans right now?
I think they respect me, but they don't like me. Look, they don't want to hear about the dysfunction last year. They don't want to know. They want me to tell them that everything is perfect, and I understand it. I think we're just going through a phase right now, and we're going to get out of it together. I was at Jets practice the other day, and obviously people are very different on social media than when they see you in person. So, I wasn't getting no one was heckling me. No one was being mean. In fact, when I see Jets fans, they're always nice. And they always say the same thing, which is, I hate that you know what you know and you share it. Can you just keep it to yourself? It makes us look so bad. So that's why when you ask me how I think they view me, I know they respect my ability to uncover the information. They just wish the information was better. And I always tell them, I didn't trade for Aaron Rodgers. I didn't trade for Hassan Riddick without a contract. Remember that. So I'm just passing along the problem. And, the Jets are going to try their best here, I think, to turn a page on a really weird, bizarre year, and just try to win some games. And it just, unfortunately, the effort is being made behind closed doors. I just don't know if it's translating because, again, we're talking about another big story as we're just a few weeks away from week 1.
What was your reaction the first time Aaron Rodgers called you out publicly?
I was in the ESPN green room and I was in between shows. So it was part of the car wash. And essentially what we were doing that day was Adam and I were taking turns popping on shows. So at that time, SportsCenter was on the air and I was scheduled to go on. And Aaron went on Pat McAfee. And that was the first time he addressed my report that he had a wish list of players that he gave the New York Jets, which we all knew was true and obviously turned out to be true because you saw who they signed.
Right.
And I remember Pat asking him the question about the wish list, and everyone in the green room was Schefter, Orlovsky, it was just producers. People were just popping their head in, and I think it was Orlovsky was like, "Here we go," and I'm like, "Oh gosh, what's he gonna say?" Because he is an incredible quarterback, and anything he says, people are going to just believe. And he said, I think he said he didn't know my name. I think he was like Dianna, whatever her name is, and whatever he said. And so in the moment, I remember feeling defensive. I remember going, oh, I'm going on TV. I'm going on SportsCenter in 2 minutes. I'm going to light him up. I'm going to drop even more names that I had on his list. I'm thinking I'm going to punch him right in the gut. And I'm sitting on the set and Sage Steele is next to me. And the other anchor is in the middle of a read and he's doing something. And Sage looks at me and I think she could see on my face that I was fired up. And she just immediately went into mentor, big sister mode and was like, nope, class. And I was like, okay, stick to your facts, give your information. It's about the story, not you. Okay. Anchor tosses to Sage. She says, all right, Dianna, Aaron Rodgers just went on Pat McAfee. He denies that there was a wish list. What do you know? And I just went back to reporter version of me and just said, well, Sage, here's what I know. Here's what I can share with the viewer. And I saw Sage recently and I thanked her for that moment. It was a really good lesson that it's not personal and you can't let it ever get that far, even though you could feel maybe forms of embarrassment, or I just remember not wanting the attention in that moment. I just wanted to report the story.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful that I had somebody there who was calm in the moment and saw this could be really bad if you don't act like a credible journalist right now. And so ever since then, I've handled the Rodgers situation the same way, which is I'm just going to share what I know. I know he doesn't like it. And I know he respects me because I had somebody from his camp tell me that you drive him crazy, but he thinks you're really good. So I'm at peace with it.
The Zach Wilson one, though, I feel like he made that a little bit more personal. I think he said or accused you of trying to assassinate Zach's character, something along those lines, which is essentially an attempt on assassinating your character then.
Yeah. I think he was frustrated with the organization. That interview he did with Pat after I reported that Zach Wilson was refusing to start after the Jets approached him.
Yeah.
The Jets had told him that they were going to trade him. So he's like, wait, now I'm the starter? So I understood Zach's side to it. And Aaron's version of it, or at least frustration, of the situation was that someone told me of why are we telling her this? And I think that moment was more about the Jets organization and his disappointment in treatment of each other as teammates than it really was about me. So did he lash out a little bit at me? Possibly with some tone, but that was another story where he knew I knew and didn't want me to know it.
Yeah.
And it made Zach look bad. And now Zach is thriving in Denver.
You've been on Pat McAfee's show yourself. What do you think of Aaron Rodgers on Pat McAfee?
I mean, he's an open book at this point, right? And he's entertaining and he's must watch. So I know the plan was for him to continue doing that this season. And I remember asking the Jets in the offseason if there were any thoughts to maybe cutting that back. And they don't have control over it. They can't tell Aaron what to do. So Aaron's going to do what he wants to do. And I'm look, if he just plays well and they win, no one cares. That's just how it works. So the problem with him talking is talking when they're not doing well. It just creates a distraction and it becomes a problem. So if he thinks that's the best thing for the team, then he should do it.
I don't think it's been announced yet whether or not. I know there's you certainly would expect that Aaron will be on there every Tuesday, but have you heard that Aaron is preparing to be on there every Tuesday? Have the Jets discussed it at all?
This was early off season when I talked to them about it, and I think it was part of their planning for the fall season that he was going to continue. I don't know that though, so I can't. You know what? I'll call Andrew Marchand, my new colleague, and ask him the scoop on that. He's fantastic.
And how have you liked going on Pat's show?
I love Pat. Pat's great. Pat's so good at what he does. He's fun. I remember when I joined The Athletic, the week before I was on the show, but I was an ESPN employee.
Yeah.
And then he had me on and I was and he's like, wait, what? What happened? But I mean, I've known Pat a long time. I've seen him at tons of events and I think he's been great. And look at the guest list he gets. As somebody who is booking their own guests now, God bless them. Because it is not easy to book.
What's your relationship with Aaron Rodgers? Is he somebody like, will you text him if you need to, or to check up on something, or ask him questions directly? Is he receptive to that?
Yeah, he's not receptive, but if I'm going to report on anything involving him, I always want him to know. So ever since the wish list, I've always let him know that I'm doing a story on him or I'm mentioning him, or I just think it's the respectful thing to do to let somebody know, hey, tomorrow morning I'm doing this, or tonight on my newsletter, I'm writing this. And also to see if he wants to comment on it.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. So even when we did, Zach Rosenblatt, our Jets beat reporter, and I teamed up together and did a piece on what happened this past season with the Jets, I made sure he was aware of it. I made sure the Jets let Aaron know what we were going to be saying as well and gave them a few days to work on it. But he never got back to me. And I've seen him before at practice and, I say hi. It's fine.
Yeah. There was a lot written and talked about as soon as Aaron got traded to the Jets, like the national media was kind of interested and concerned about how Aaron would do with the New York media. How do you think Aaron has done with the local media? Now, like, obviously we haven't gone through a season where it's after a bad loss and he's answering questions, but in terms of what we've seen, how do you think he's done with the local media?
I mean, you see now the cover of the New York Post this week is about the book.
Yeah.
And he's on the front page and look, I don't think it's as bad as it could have been. I mean, it's not gonna, I say this it's not gonna get any worse than what we saw this past season, but who knows? I think he's been fine. I know the local media that covers him every day. They like him. They enjoy talking to him. He's respectful to them. I've sat in on those before. And he's great. He's good in those spaces. That's not the issue with the Jets. The local media and the New York media and Aaron Rodgers is not a problem. It's everything else.
Do you think Rodgers cares about how he's covered?
Yes. I think Aaron Rodgers is a human being and he cares. And I think he sees all of it. And I think he likes to be talked about. and he is a player that has an ego. So I don't think that makes him unusual or difficult. I just
Yeah.
think he cares what people say about him.
He was on this morning, and we're recording this on Tuesday. He was on with Boomer and Gio on WFAN this morning, and he said Greg asked him the question, and he said he doesn't care about how he's covered. Which to me, that was a statement that I don't know if he was just trying to protect himself or if it lacked self-awareness, because like it seems like there aren't many athletes who care more about the way they're covered than Aaron does.
How'd those guys do? Because they crush him all the time. Were they hard on him, or did they let him off
No,
some?
it was fine. I think so. Last year's interview was really bad and awkward and almost like uncomfortable at times to listen to, just because Aaron made it clear he was not interested in being there that day. Like, I don't know, they said that he was stuck in traffic on the way there last year, and like it just kind of got them off
You know
on the
what?
wrong
I
foot.
went on Gio's show 2 weeks ago. He told me that story
Oh,
about
okay.
he was traffic. He was late. Yes, I do remember this. Yes.
So this
was
time
better.
there was at least, there were some smiles, mutual
Good.
smiles. I think he and you would expect normally with a current player just sitting next to Boomer Esiason. I mean, obviously Aaron Rodgers' career is bigger than Boomer's, but like still an NFL MVP. So like there's just an automatic respect there. And last year, like it seemed like, I don't know, he was almost acting like he didn't know who Boomer was. But this year it was much better, much more comfortable to at least watch.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad they were able to land it and get the interview, and Aaron's playing ball a little bit. So
Yeah.
that's, and look, when he's must watch and must listen to.
Yeah.
You see him. He's done a bunch of different ones during training camp. I put a request in. I have not heard back.
Okay.
I'll let you know. I'm gonna guess it's a big fat no.
No, it would certainly be an interesting.
I wish he would join.
Watch.
I mean, he should join on Scoop City. That'd be fun.
You mentioned the Ian O'Connor book, and there has been a lot of headlines about that this week. And one of the bigger ones came out yesterday that Rodgers has expressed some regret over using the term immunized in 2021 when he was asked about getting vaccinated. Do you think Rodgers would be covered differently or perceived differently today if he didn't lie or deceive about his vaccination status a few years ago?
No, because I think Aaron always came with some baggage. Aaron always came, the older the more he was in the league, the more he opened up, the more he shared, the more he became involved. His interests changed.
Yeah.
The Aaron that we saw 20 years ago, 15 years ago, is a lot different than the Aaron that we've seen over the last few years. Do I think the vaccination was definitely part of it? Yeah, but most people don't even remember COVID at this point because they don't want to remember it. So I do think that's a part of his story and part of who he is. But I think there's so many other parts of Aaron Rodgers that has rubbed people the wrong way outside of just the immunization.
Were you interviewed for Ian's book?
I was not. I love Ian, but no, I was not. I think he's tremendous. I can't wait to read the book. I'm sure. I don't believe Aaron was part of it, but I know they interviewed him, correct?
Yeah, correct.
I saw some quotes. So
yeah, he mentioned that this morning as well, that he was interviewed, but he said he was interviewed after Ian already had written the first draft.
Yeah,
so then they went back and added stuff. But
that's good. Well, at least he knows what's coming. That's good. At least has an idea of what Ian wrote about, because I do think it's really unfair if people are writing false information about you. And this has happened in football where we've seen stories get put out there and reported, and it's just completely wrong. That is wrong. That's unfair. The big topic I feel like the last few months has been the aggregators, the world of the aggregators, getting information wrong. And it's hard. And while the reporter in the moment always is under the pressure and feels the heat when the information's wrong because of the aggregator, there's also the layer of what you're reporting on and how it makes that person look bad and makes the organization look bad. And people don't realize when it gets put out there incorrectly, how many fires start. You have to you know how many phone calls I deal with after an aggregator takes information and puts it out incorrectly? It's exhausting. That's really why people hate it so much, because it just gives you stress you don't need. Getting information is hard enough. Doing this job is hard. And then to have people say that you're saying incorrect things, and it's just really difficult, because you don't want to lose your credibility ever. That's something Schefter and Woj taught me early in this.
What about the account, the Pretty Ricky account? Earlier in the off season, there was the social media account Pretty Ricky 123 that was getting stuff right, and it was like half hour or so before Schefter or anyone else was reporting it.
Here's what
that one's been on the Brandon Ayuk to the Steelers thing for the last week or so, which has not happened yet. But earlier in the off season, the account was getting stuff correct.
Yeah. Here's what I say to people who like to dip their toe: do it 24/7. Do it every day of the week. Then let me know how many you're getting right. And then let me know if you like to do this job, because that's the challenge.
Yeah.
Stepping in when you just are hearing from a buddy, and look, maybe some of these guys do have really good ends. Great. One story, go get them. That's not a career. Do this every day. That would be my response to people who say, oh, well, Pretty Ricky's great at news. Okay. Let's see what happens in the next, few months. Cause here's the thing. You can't hide from news. And you can't hide from the job. You have to constantly be on it. So, it's the reason why there's only 7 of us in football doing it. If that, it's because it's so demanding.
Is Christopher Johnson around the team a lot?
Yeah. I love Christopher Johnson too. He is so open and kind and thoughtful about the team. Anytime I've seen him at owners meetings, he will always stop to discuss the team. He's one of the gems of the organization, without a doubt. I think a lot of people think there's nothing but bad people in the Jets organization just because there've been some bad decisions. That's not the truth. There's some incredible people in that building. And he's definitely one of them.
Has there been discussion about what will happen if Trump wins the election? Is Woody interested in
I don't know.
taking a position again?
I do not know.
And would Christopher, I would imagine, would take over?
Yeah, I would think if that happens again, because we saw obviously that happened the last time with Christopher running the show. Woody's obviously very involved in the Jets. I have not heard from the Jets on what the process will be in terms of ownership change.
How do you think Woody is as an owner?
Competitive. I think he wants to win. I think he wants to win badly. I think this last season, the philosophy was all there. I loved what he was doing in terms of empowering Aaron Rodgers. Give the keys to the guy who knows how to win. Give the keys to the guy who knows what a culture should be and look like. But I think what was lost in all of that is, well, if you want to give the keys to the person doing it, what is it about the people around him that you don't want them to do it? So that's where maybe they went wrong. I don't necessarily believe they equipped Aaron with the best staff around him.
Yeah.
For them to have success. And then they had an opportunity after this season to make those changes after seeing a lot of missteps. But Woody decided they didn't want change. They wanted to literally just run it back. Aaron will do well. Let's just start from scratch and do this again. Let's pretend last year did not exist. And he's comfortable in that. And he has to believe in that, because who knows if this is their last chance with Aaron.
Do you think Aaron would have been receptive to change? Like if he said we needed to get rid of,
Yes. There is I have never sensed a loyalty that, you hear with him with Nathaniel Hackett, that he wants Nathaniel Hackett. That is a relationship that is strong. He wants Nathaniel part of the offense. They still explored bringing on Arthur Smith to come on during the offseason, which didn't pan out. But he didn't want Nathaniel Hackett fired. He just wanted perhaps maybe another brain in the mix to help them with this offense. But I've never felt this loyalty to Robert Saleh, to Aaron. This has just been, I think Aaron Rodgers probably would have been open if they asked him, do you want to move on? But from what I can gather, I don't think they ever asked Aaron if they want to move on from Saleh. They
And
really
were
just wanted to bring it
those
back.
discussions had internally about potentially moving on from Saleh?
Yeah. Every team has discussions at the end of the season about their coach when they have a season like they just did. Anyone that is losing, ownership has conversations with the team president, with the general manager to say, does this work? Do we need to make a change? Should we reach out to those that are available? And Woody was very strong about wanting to keep Robert Saleh in place.
Do you think did Rodgers have an issue with the way Saleh handled him being away for the mandatory minicamp?
Are you a really big Jets fan?
I am a Jets fan, yeah.
Oh my God. I'm like, am I doing a Jets podcast? I love it. No, it's great. I love you, Jets. Wait, so I should have asked you, by the way, what did Jets fans think about me?
So I like the honesty. I want to, like, I have very little faith in the Jets at this point. Just over the course of decades of rooting for them. So like every time I see something, a negative headline or a story that like there's issues internally, like it's not surprising at this point. So I'd prefer to know when it happens. And then the other thing is like last year when the team was bad and uninteresting, like go ahead, just like let them set as many fires to themselves as they can.
Yeah.
And
just remember, we're not doing it. The reporters aren't doing it.
Correct.
And I, which is why when things are going great, I love being at practice when Aaron's just crushing it. Zach Rosenblatt will text me like they had such a good day today in offense. And I enjoy hearing the successes. I want to see them do well. They are putting so much into this. I get no joy out of seeing this, dumpster fire. So, especially because I live around here.
Yeah.
People are happier when the Jets and Giants are doing well. And it's miserable when I'm walking around town and talking to people and the same old Jet, whereas, I've been in Philly before. I spent a lot of time there and, everyone's so high on the Eagles. It's fun. It's exciting. It's, energizing for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the Knicks were in the exact same boat as the Jets were until they got Jalen Brunson. And,
correct. Look at the difference.
Turned around
exactly.
Now, so.
Exactly.
Last thing, how often do you watch the diving catch from Rex Ryan in the rain? I think it was in the rain at Jets camp like 15 years ago.
God, it was that long ago. You're right. I was at Eric Mangini's charity event and it was pouring rain and I wasn't a reporter yet. I didn't cover the NFL. I was just a news reporter. Okay. So I was just there covering it. And I was standing with a coach while my camera guy was just getting some B-roll. And I made a remark about Rex Ryan because I was a Jets fan then. So I made some remark about Rex and he heard me. And he said, "Oh, well, you think you can do it?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, well, go out here." And he calls me over. He's like, "Here's what you're going to do." And he drew up some play for me. And I had some 16-year-old defend me. And Rex didn't know what he was dealing with. And I was not going to drop that ball. And in the rain, I just laid out and I caught it and they went nuts. And that was actually my introduction to the NFL. I knew after that, I was like, I like these guys. I want to do this. And I remember talking to Eric Mangini and telling him, I think I want to leave news. I think I want to do this because I was, again, just there to cover the charity event.
Yeah.
He's like, you better be ready to work. And he helped me learn football that first, I'd say that first season. And even once in a while now I'll get a text from him about something I said on TV. Oh yeah, he's great. Eric Mangini is one of the brightest people I have ever been around. I'm not talking about football, in life. He's I know the joke is man genius. He is a genius. He is so smart. I'm so lucky that he was one of my original football uncles to help guide me on hopefully a long, long career.
Yeah, no, that was an incredible catch. Something that Aaron Rodgers should probably take a look at.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Dianna, you were great. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, that is Dianna Russini. I'm Brandon Contes. This is the Awful Announcing Podcast. Please rate and subscribe to this podcast. Please also subscribe to Awful Announcing's YouTube page. But regardless of how you consume Awful Announcing and the Awful Announcing Podcast, thanks for listening and be good.
Thanks for listening to the Awful Announcing Podcast. For the latest news spanning the sports media landscape and more, check out awfulannouncing.com and follow us at Awful Announcing.